Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, your creativity and spiritual life coach and your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. I would like to invite you over, if you haven't already, to listen to Her Inspirations, which is the sister podcast to this title. In each solo episode, I aim to inspire my midlife sisters to recognize and embrace the wisdom of our experience and allow this next season of our lives to be the most free and fruitful. Midlife is the time to bloom. My guest this week is Ceirra Hargan, a BQH Practitioner, Divine Blueprint Activator and Empowerment Coach. As a Divine Blueprint Activator, her soul's mission is to help people remember who they are at a soul level and to access their higher guidance. During our conversation, Ceirra shares her story that saw her overcome heroin and fentanyl addiction for 8 years, then recognizing her spiritual gifts and her true purpose in this life, and embodying her soul's essence as a spiritual healer and teacher with an unbreakable connection to her guides and angels. So as always, I begin by asking my guest, Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
I would say there are 3 places. So just when I'm in that space of love, like if I really just take time in that present moment, just to feel the love around me, feel the love within myself, when I'm in gratitude. So when I'm so thankful for the experience that I'm having, when I'm thankful for the path that I've had, even though it was challenging, when I'm thankful for the love that I do have in my life. And then when I'm helping other people, when I'm like truly in service to other people, and when I see the growth and the transformation in my clients, like at the end of the session, when they just have that giant light around them and they're radiating, that is when I feel like I'm in my most authentic self and the happiest place to be for me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And before we go further into our discussion, Ceirra, I just want to give you a moment to share a little bit about you and the work that you do, and even what brought you to do the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, so I was actually a heroin and fentanyl addict for about 8 years. I struggled with addiction my entire life. From a very early age, I was addicted to food, so I never knew how to stop eating when I was hungry. I started binge eating from a very young age. I was an obese child. My emotions just always felt so confusing to me. So I was doing everything that I possibly could to go outside of myself to make myself feel better. And as I got older, my emotions got more and more confusing, and it really just like spiraled out of control. So by the time I was in high school, I was drinking and smoking. And then by the time I was 21, I was doing things like heroin. And it got really bad to the point where I was in and out of rehab, in and out of methadone programs. I had a back infection and I almost died. And I still used after that. Like, I really didn't know what else to do. Like, I felt like I was trapped. I didn't even know how to make different choices. And it was actually through Joe Dispenza's work where I was able to start looking at my behaviors. I was able to stabilize myself on methadone. I was, I thought was the first time I had actually looked at my belief systems, because drugs like that, it's a mostly you've created this belief system where you think you're going to die without it,
Mm.
or you're in just such a state of survival where it's more important than like your shelter, your food, water, your relationships. And so I was, I had to completely change my belief system. And Joe Dispenza gave me the tools to do that. And so once I was able to stabilize on methadone, then I just went all in. I started doing the work. I was like giving myself the space to just cry my eyes out, because I've never had felt I'd never felt my emotions before. Traumas were coming up that I'd never dealt with. And sobriety terrified me because I'd never been sober before. So I didn't even know who Ceirra was, or let alone like sober Ceirra.
Mm.
So I continued to do the work. Um, when I actually did, I just had like this feeling like it's time, it's time, it's time. I had tapered myself all the way down to like just 5 milligrams of methadone, but those drugs are so strong that I still went into full withdrawal, even after tapering myself from like 80 milligrams to 5 milligrams. So I was doing breath work to get through the withdrawal, um, just so that I could sleep, because I hadn't slept in 4 days. And I laid on the ground and I just started like laughing and crying at the same time. And it felt like this world opened up to me, where I felt connected to everything and everyone all at once. I didn't really have any spiritual experiences when I was younger. My entire life, it was just me, my addictions, and my 3D reality. And so this was the first moment where I was like, I just knew there was something more to this life. I knew we were all connected. And I had also been going outside of myself my entire life. And that was that moment where I was like, whoa, it's all been within me this entire time. From that moment, all my spiritual abilities came online. And that's when I really just wanted to be in service to others. Like there was no looking back. I saw that I went through that addiction for a reason, so that I can help people.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And there's a couple of things I want to ask you as well. And um, I remember when we spoke before, there was something that you put as a question as to like why you chose the experience of addiction. And to be able to claim that and to say that, oh, I chose this, even when you're going through all of the pain within yourself of what addiction is, and then also the pain that other people experience when they are related to or connected to someone who's going through that. How did you get to that point of realizing that it was a choice that you'd made, even on a level past, past the human level? When did you claim that, and why did you claim that, and how did that shift the way that you moved through as a result of going, I chose this experience?
So this is why I love BQH. And I just so BQH, it's beyond quantum healing. It is a form of QHHT, but BQH just gives me more leniency to like do things the way that I want to do them. It's just a form of like a light form of hypnosis, so we can get past the analytical mind. And I just started listening to BQH sessions. And then as soon as I heard a session, I was like, I knew that that was my path, that that was at least the beginning of my spiritual path of being in service to other people. I started my certification before I even did my own BQH session, because I just knew that was it. And in that first BQH session, like you get past the analytical mind and you're able to ask your higher guidance or your higher self, like, why did I experience, why did I experience these things? And I really went into some dark places. I saw some really dark things. I was in addiction for a very long time. I did things that I never thought I would do. And so just getting that higher perspective of like you went into that darkness so that your light can be this bright. And you chose addiction so that now you can help other people in this life get over these kinds of addictions.
Mm.
And then also just for your own like self evolution. So think about all the lessons you learned and how much stronger you are just because you got through those things. Just hearing that higher perspective and like hearing that I went through all of that for a purpose
Mm.
makes it okay. Like it makes it takes you from a victim mindset to a place of empowerment. And so when I can get clients, when I can help them get into that space where they can see the higher perspective on their traumas, it's the most beautiful thing because it allows you to take a shift in your mindset of why these things are happening to you. And then also, I remember one day, so like I said, from that one moment, all my spiritual abilities came online. And um, I kind of always felt like I was a leader in the spiritual community from the very beginning. And so I started having these thoughts as you're learning to be in the present moment. I started having these thoughts of like, why didn't I wake up sooner? Like, I could have helped so many more people. I could have done all these things. Like I was already in addiction for 8 years. Why did it have to be so long? Like I was just letting my mind go. And I just heard a voice so clearly. It felt like it came from above. And it just said, when will you see the beauty of this life was the addiction? And I just surrendered. I like started crying my eyes out, just completely surrendered. And I think that we're living this life so that we can learn how to transform our pain into purpose.
Mm. Wow, that's powerful sharing. Thank you. Do you find that the clients that you're working with are mainly from a place of addiction, or are you seeing people come from all kinds of different experiences?
I see them from all kinds of experiences. I mostly work with people that are ready to develop their spiritual abilities. So I mostly work with people that want to open themselves up as a channel, that want to be connected to their higher guidance, or that are just ready to heal from some of those traumas from childhood.
So explain your experiences as well. Tell me about your experiences when you felt that your own spiritual gifts were like coming on board suddenly. Like, what were those early moments like, and how did you allow them to thrive and show you what they were about? Because, many people have those abilities, but they spend so long like denying them or pushing them out of the way because it's so unlike what the majority of people are experiencing. So it's something that's very different to everyone, and maybe you're having all of these amazing insights and experiences and sensations, and also you want to talk about it because it's like, what's happening to me? Yet there's no one to talk to. So how did you find support as you started to awaken to all of these things within yourself?
Yeah, so first of all, we are all spiritually gifted, and we are all using our spiritual gifts just in our daily life, even before we have our awakening. And so, like, examples of this is we can all channel. Like, if you've ever written a paper and you just like if you were in school and you had to write an essay and you were just typing on the computer and all of a sudden you're 2 pages down and you're like, whoa, what did I write? You were channeling. You're in that flow state where you're just allowing it to come in to this reality.
Mm.
And then also, so like my mom, she is very clairgustant, which means like you have clair taste. So you can like it's kind of a funny spiritual ability where like if spirits are around you and stuff, you can taste things. So my mom, we would always go out to restaurants to eat, and she hated everything that we would eat. And me and my mom just thought that she was really picky. And she found out that she has like this ability of clairgustance, and she was actually just tasting the chemicals in all of the food. And then like you could light a candle across the entire house and she would like taste chemicals in her mouth. And then like she would go searching around the house of like what's happening. And it was a candle that had all of these really bad chemicals in it. And so
Mm,
we all have these spiritual abilities that are showing up in our life that we don't even realize is our intuition.
mm. So how would you direct someone who are having those moments of awareness that they can't really put their finger on it, or they're feeling it's a little bit too weird, or like to kind of start to trust it, to start to step into it and open up to what they're being shown about themselves? How can they have courage about that?
Yeah, so it's all about releasing fear around these things and trusting yourself.
Mm,
And so the way to release fear is to just welcome it in love and just knowing that you are divinely protected in this reality. And when I started, I really went from 0 to 100. So I got myself off of methadone. That moment that I was laying on the floor in that bliss state, I believe now is a Kundalini awakening.
mm,
And so I went from a life of an addiction into a Kundalini awakening. And I really went from 0 to 100. And so things do happen because we're being introduced to the spiritual realm. These things have always been there. It's just now we have full awareness that they're there.
mhm,
And so we have to welcome these things in love. And sometimes things happen that are scary. So, like when these things were happening, I was working in a hospital and I started to see spirits for the first time. And I started to see entities for the first time. And there were moments where my eyes were wide open and I grabbed my backpack and went home. This is too much.
yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. And I want to think about now how where we are right now in terms of the world and this awakening that I believe everyone's experiencing in their own time. But there is a shift going on in my opinion. I mean, that's why I created this whole podcast and this whole thing of uh tools for the awakening. And the awakening is not just an individual awakening, the awakening is humanity's awakening. And that what I'm seeing is, where the world, the external world is just getting crazier and crazier right now. And the only way out of this is for us to kind of go through and into our own spiritual awakening, into our own gifts, to find out what it is that we can do to shift what we're seeing right now and create something new. Um, what are you seeing, or what are you sensing about where we are going, individuals, where we're going as a humanity, as a species in general?
I think people are just tired. Like, I think they're just coming to the point where they're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't continue to work 40 hours a week and raise my kids and worry about my kids in school. And they can't live in this state of anxiety anymore because we're seeing such a heightened state of chronic illness.
Mm,
And so I think people are just tired and they're just ready. Like I think we're seeing more people, even if it's like the politics happening in the United States right now,
mm,
just people's eyes are starting to open to, whoa, we have been going through these same patterns over and over and over, and we can't keep doing this.
mm,
And so, at the very least, I think you're just seeing people step back for the first time and kind of like wake up from the hypnosis that they've been under and just be like, this isn't working and I can't live like this anymore. And it's not, if anything, it's just created more separation. And when you start to meet, like, been a lot of things around like racial separation and um, judgment towards other people, especially in the United States. And I think people, when you meet those specific people and you realize how loving they are and that they're just a normal person too, there's
mm,
these realizations happening of how we have been wired to have separation and to put judgment onto other people. And so all these things are coming to the surface at one time. And I think people are just ready to make a difference more than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And people come to me and they're like, I don't even know where to start. They're like, I have like maybe this chronic illness, or maybe I am interested in this. All I know is my life's not working and I don't even know where to start. And I tell them that, like, even just having the awareness, like, even just having the interest in changing your life for the better, that's where you're starting. And that's beautiful.
Mm. Oh, I agree with you on all of the things that you've said, especially when you just when it's that question, that initial question of like, okay, no more. How can I move forward? How can I do things differently? And the conversations that I've had sometimes on this podcast, but also in my daily life, um, especially when people are still kind of caught up with the differences, we're just constantly carving more boxes to put these people here and these people here and say that these people are the cause of the problem and these people are the bad guys. And like you say, then when you meet people and you speak to them, you realize that this high percentage of othering that we are living under, the fact that these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, it's like if you think about a percentage level of how many people that you meet that are really like that, it's like really low. Or the people that are still kind of pointing the finger at a different group of as being the problem is just because they're just still under, like you say, the hypnosis that is telling them that these other people are like that. And I believe that many of the segregation comes from like tapping into like a trauma, like kind of like manipulating people on an emotional level, that when you start to heal, you move out of that emotion, you can see what it really stands for, where it really comes from. What has been like the biggest awakening for you in the work that either in the work that you do, the way that you're seeing things, or just how it kind of shifted your perspective of the world?
I have had, I would say, definitely that moment after my drug addiction. Just I went on, I dove, or I went, sorry, I went into a deep dive of as much spiritual information as I could possibly get.
Mm,
I think like when you do open yourself up to spirituality, you get very curious. And so I was just like going everywhere I could for more information to learn more. Like you start to learn about different conspiracy theories and you go down those rabbit holes. But it's all really important because it's changing your perception and you're gaining more wisdom along the way. And then
mm.
you kind of get to a point where you realize you never knew anything.
Oh yeah.
And I actually think that that's the best place to be, that
Mm,
you realize that you're truly just here to have an experience. And when you can start to have an open belief system instead of a closed belief system, I
mm,
think that that is what changed everything for me. Like I realized like maybe what I believe in, maybe it could be transformed in some way. Maybe it's not even true. Why? And I started looking at the reasons, like, why do I believe these things? Like, as long as you're always asking the questions of, like, why did I believe this? Is this conditioned into me from childhood? Is this a programming that I've had? Just keep asking, like, why?
mm,
I think that has been the most powerful transformation for me, just in my mindset shift.
mm. Yeah, I like the what you're saying, especially about digging into those rabbit holes. I think what's interesting when you go down all of these rabbit holes, sometimes it doesn't even matter whether it's true or not. It's just, can you look at the same thing from the most extreme opposite end of what it could be? Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, or maybe the truth is neither of those things. But there's a freeing of your mind when you start to kind of look at the same thing from different points of view. If I kind of think that like voting blue is the way to go, what if I kind of put the red hat on and looked at the world from their point of view and go like, well, okay, then why do they think that that's more realistic? And see that usually, when I kind of, like you say, step back and look at the reasons why people hold on to an ideology so badly is because of some really set belief system that kind of usually like taps into some area that it's kind of feeding them on a level that they've not healed. And then when you kind of look at it from the other point of view, like, oh, okay, I can see where that goes as well. And then you kind of step back from both of it and you just see it looks like a Punch and Judy show. And if you've ever seen those, where they're literally just two puppets like banging each other on the head and like saying they're either one is the bad guy and not coming up with any solution, like you say, then it's like, change scene and it's the same again. And we just keep going through the cycles. I mean, I've lived to see like multiple governments and I can't see anything changing like here or anywhere really. But the game just seems to be getting more and more ridiculous to the point, I think, that there's almost like a comedy to it. I don't know how you feel about things. I know sometimes things aren't funny, like if you're in the center of it and you still believe it to be real, but kind of stepping back and looking at it, it looks like it's like the most amazing reality show that, we're literally watching the reality show play out in real time. And the more ridiculous or the more extreme things get is then when people just pop out of the dream and just go, oh my gosh, and are then being able to find themselves on the other side of the allegory of the cave is literally what we're living through right now as people are just recognizing that what we're seeing are shadows on the wall. They're not true. And once we come out, we're in this completely different space. What about you? What are your points of view when you see like the world just become this massive pantomime? Because it gets so ridiculous now. Like you're like, people can't really still be buying into this, right?
Yeah, so I think going back to taking a step back and just being able to really learn about different things without putting judgment on it.
Mm.
I actually love the flat earth debate just because, like, I don't even care if earth is flat or round.
Mm.
I love that it shows you exactly where your belief system is at
Mm.
because people will be like, oh, the earth's not flat, of course not, and they will really hold on to that. But if you actually take time to go and look, there are some really good points.
Mm. Well, do
And
you know
so,
what? I had to talk to that, I had it'll be about 3 years ago, roundabout now actually, I spoke to Dave Weiss on this platform, who is probably one of like the leading flat earth guys, because I wanted to hear it from his point of view. And like you say, if you kind of look at it from their perspective, it it makes sense from their perspective because they've kind of figured out their own reasoning why what they're saying is true. And it's like it takes away from you holding on to what we have now. And just by allowing somebody else to present their point of view, then you're like, well, do you know what? I don't know. Because like nobody can prove anything solid to me in the way that I need something to be true. And yeah, it was just interesting to hear him talk. And I couldn't, I wasn't going to go down on him. But the thing that I find very interesting about that is how triggered people get. When you just mention it,
exactly.
it just like literally sends people into a tailspin. And you're like, okay, like, can we just not even like surmise what it's like, and think, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean if I think everything that I've believed up until this point isn't that way? And the world is different, and the movement of the planets and the sun and the stars is working in a completely different configuration to the one that I've been told to believe, based on models, based on balls, based on pictures. And it shows, I think, how susceptible we are to buying into a story and holding on to it with very little proof other than that we've been told it. No, and when You know, when you can let go of that, you're like, okay, like you said before, well, why do I believe this? Where did this come from? Why do I believe this to be true? Because it's only been the way that I've been told something that I've held on to it for so long. And it's I can see why it's frightening to some people, because they're letting go of their reality and they don't know what's on the other side of their belief. And for some people, that holding on to that paradigm keeps them very safe, even if they can see maybe that it's a lie. I mean, more and more things are coming to the fore right now. And it's interesting how some people are able to let go and look at things, and other people are doubling down because of the fear of their entire reality disappearing from them. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And I've spoken to him simply because I was curious, you know.
Yeah, I love that. I actually, when I was going through your videos, like I just landed on him.
Oh,
So,
did you?
like I already knew who he was, but I was like, oh, that's really cool. She would interview him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just anything like if you can just take a step back and see where things are triggering you, and then ask yourself, like, why is this triggering to me?
Mm.
So I kind of went through like a second awakening where, so the first part of my awakening, it was very much like a starseed awakening. It was very much like just practicing, like learning things like manifestation, like more new age things. And then I kind of went through a second awakening where I was like, these things are distracting me from like what is really important. And I came back to God. But when I really came back to God, all of this Christian terminology started to come back up to me. And so I started to realize like how many triggers I had around like Christianity and a religion. And I had to heal all of that. And now it's like I can love Christianity because there are tools that Christianity gives us that are so beautiful.
Mm.
And there are tools that all of these religions give us. And so anything that triggers you, like listen to that trigger and ask yourself, why? Why is this triggering me so deeply? Like you said before, like, why does flat Earth scare me so much? Usually it's coming from some kind of fear. So really tap in with your fears because like we're all bombarded with fear every single day that a lot of time we don't even know why we're afraid. So when these triggers come up for us, it's actually a beautiful moment where we can ask ourselves like, where did this fear come from? Like, was this from childhood? Was this conditioned into me? Was this a fear response from something that happened?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. It's and the thing is, when you start to ask those why questions, because I've always just been a suspicious mind. And I remember even when I was at school, having a mock English exam. So it wasn't even the real exam. And putting on that and writing on that, then how do I know that we went to the moon? Like I was at school asking these questions, like unpopular, you know, it's like because they and it's like, but I'm like, how do we know though? You know, and it wasn't even, you know, I'm a 16-year-old girl who lives in a small town in the UK, so not even London. So there's no, and these were not conversations that I was having with anyone, definitely not in my house, definitely not my friends. But for some reason, I was like, but like, how do we know? I always had that mind of like, well, how do we know? Why? Why? And especially because and I suppose we all grow up with people who go, well, we've got to do this because that's what they say. This is what they do, you know, and there's always this mysterious they, and because that's the way it is, and because that's the way that we should, that everyone just seemed to be going along with this thing. But then when I asked why are we doing it, nobody could tell me why they were doing it. And if ever, and it then like if I started to press on like, yeah, but why though? Yeah, but why though? There's only so many yeah, but why those you can ask somebody who's very locked into the fact that they're just doing something. And oftentimes asking that yeah, but why question actually shows them that they've not really thought about what they're doing. And the confrontation that they experience, I mean, it took me years to realize that it wasn't just you know, they weren't flicking me off because I was just an annoying kid. But it was like there's a moment of realization when they've like, oh dear, I maybe just built my entire life on something that I've not questioned at all. And I'm just going along with it. because everyone else is going along with it. And also there's safety in numbers. So we're just kind of going along, just assuming that this is the way. But time and time again, life will show that so many people go along and do the things that they should do because you're supposed to do this at this point in time, this when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you should. But the amount of people that have midlife crises, you know, they wake up in their mid 40s, 50s, and they're like, what did I do? And have spent, you know, like you say, like 40 years, maybe working 40 hours a week at something that they thought they should do because that was the right thing to do. And realizing that they've not answered the call or managed to like suppress that part of themselves. And many of the clients that I work with are realizing now, I don't want to live my life like this. You know, I'm coming to this age where I'm like, is this all there is? Is this all I'm going to do? And wanting to find that creativity within themselves, or look at their life and realize that their life has given them all of the reasons or all of the tools or the experiences that they're then create something like you have then done to be able to help other people and snap them out of it. So it just, I would say, a clear indication of the fact that we, you know, and here I am shoulding, but like we should at least question our own beliefs so that you can get to the why that you believe. And like, if you can keep going, keep asking why, and every answer that you have, go, okay, but why, but why, but why, it will really peel back to something. And oftentimes it will literally collapse all of your beliefs because you realize that it's built on sand. Most of our beliefs are built on nothing other than we've just gone along with what everyone's gone along with. And there's a freedom and a fluidity to our beliefs that means that we can choose. We've got space, we've got magic to create something new. And I really hope that's where people are starting to awaken now. And I'm seeing that more and more. And a kind of distrust of the systems that we've relied on or believed that were there for our best interest is like now very blatantly showing themselves to be not for humanity at all, and not for anything that's beneficial to our future. And if we want to survive and thrive, then our time is now. You know, I think it's a great time to be alive, really. If you can ride the wave of seeing what's happening. If you're in the midst of it, it might be more challenging. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so before you asked me, like, how do I feel about the world stage right now? And that it does feel more like comedy more than ever before. So, have you ever gone to a store? Like, when I really think of stores like TJ Maxx, like those stores that have a really good deal.
Yeah, I
They
love
really
TJ Maxx.
trigger like people's psyche. They put people into hypnosis, like a lot of television shows. And this is where it's been really cool that doing hypnosis, I see what people look like when they go into those different kind of brain states. When people walk into stores like TJ Maxx, they are in hypnosis. So like even like I've gone to a store before and you have like tunnel vision and you're like, I need this certain coat.
Yeah.
I think we've all done it. So
I feel
think
attacked.
about so those are the people that this world stage is for right now
Mm.
because they have been under this deep hypnosis. And if they haven't gone to that state of awakening yet, then more extreme things have to happen for them to snap out of that hypnosis. Like, I do a lot of channeling on my membership, and that was like one of the main messages that came through was it's like they're literally just trying to like snap people just to have that one moment, like that one aha moment of like they have tunnel vision in TJ Maxx, they hear something about Donald Trump or Joe Biden, and they just have that one snap. That's all it takes to be like, whoa, what am I doing? Like that existential revelation moment of why am I here? Why am I in the store? What is my life coming to?
Mm.
It's just taking that one moment, because if that one moment happens, they can start building the foundation of questioning their life.
Mm.
of being in realization of like the emotions that they're not feeling. A lot of people use like shopping and those TV shows so that they don't have to feel their emotions.
Mm.
And so this show that we see on the world stage, like it's not for people like me and it's not for people like you because we've done the work. But we are here with open arms when people have that aha moment and when people wake up with their from their waking sleep and they're like, whoa, I think I need to change my life too because I don't like what's happening here.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting to watch. I mean, in one way, it's like, how ridiculous can this play get? I'm like, like, are we going to do this? You know, it goes so far. Um, but then also there's this. I was speaking to someone this morning who was talking about that, and she was saying that there are many things that she sees. There are many things that she tried to warn her friends about over the past few years, and they didn't want to hear. And now they're suffering as a result, and it's difficult for her to be, so she was saying, like, sometimes it's just hard to know so much because you can literally watch people suffer because of the consequences of this hypnosis. And but I'm saying, like, what, you can't go back in. You've come out the box now, so the thing to do is to recognize the strength that you have and the awareness that you have, and start to like build, something, like you say, so that you're on the other side for when people want to wake up, that you're ready to like be like, welcome friends, and have someone that they can speak to, as opposed to having those years of being the outsiders. Like I felt like I was the outsider for so many years because I was always questioning things. And in particular, when you talk about the media, I think one of the best things that I ever did, and I didn't realize it at the time when I was 18, 19, is I did a media course and I learned how to edit. We were given music and we'd all shoot the same video as a little scene. And we're given music and video and told to kind of make something of it. And we all came back with such vastly different results. And it was, it was no big course, but it really made me then, from that moment on, really look at television in a different way. And even when I was growing up, there was a period of time we didn't have a television. It broke. Mum didn't have the money. We had to like work on our imaginations and read and learn things, so that when I came in and out of TV, I could see the power of television, and also watching it now with an eye of how things are actually created and layered together. Then I could see when things were just kind of swaying you in a certain way because of the wording that was used, because of the edits that were made, because of the music that was underlaid. Because we all have certain attachments to music, like certain music will make you think of certain people, or, certain behaviors, and cuts on certain points will literally move people. I used to do like music videos as well and cut music videos. So I knew how a cut could actually make a vast difference to someone's emotional state. And then being a musician, I knew how you could use music you can really wind people up and throw them into a bucket very easily. And like you say, when people are watching TV, they go into that hypnotic state. Their minds are literally open. You can just pour anything in and just close it off. And they don't realize that their entire worldview has been shifted because it's done so seamlessly and also under the name of entertainment. And the things that you can put a lot of truth in entertainment and a lot of lies in what people are accepting as factual, as news, because you're like, oh, this is the truth. And you can just spin people a complete story because they're watching this thinking, well, this is the true stuff and that is the fiction. And you can really layer in people's entire worldview by if they spend way too much time on watching TV. And now, of course, we've got social media and the phone, so you're walking around with your own entrancement in your hands, which is frightening to say the least, really. No, and how do you feel about TV, or how do you really spend much time watching TV or social media? How do you kind of like separate yourself from that to, you know, keep yourself clear because it can pull you down, right?
Yeah, so when I get clients that come to me that are in their 60s, or when I look at like my boyfriend's parents, they're in their 70s, when I look at the conditioning that they've had and the TV programs that they're still watching, I'm like, you guys are the strong ones. Like the things that they have gone through, the amount of conditioning and programming that they have had. Like, I remember at least being in school. I'm 31. I remember at least being in school and being able to question things. Like, they did give me the tools of critical thinking. And that's why I'm so grateful for school. Even if I do think a lot of it is conditioning, I'm grateful that I was given the tools of critical thinking. But when they were raised, they received that. They didn't learn how to think critically for themselves. And then they were also had this heavy conditioning and programming where it was all in. That's what you did. You got excited about TV. And so actually I just the movie Fly Me to the Moon came out,
Right.
and did you see it?
Yeah. I've seen the trailer and I'm like, okay, I mean, there was a film that was made, it was a late 70s film, called, I want to say Capricorn One. And it's got I saw the trailer for Fly Me to the Moon, but the idea of Capricorn One was they were going to send like a group of astronauts up into space to, I think it was Mars or Saturn or something like that. Then at the last minute, they're like, guys, there's a real problem. We're not going to be able to go. So we're just going to pretend, you know, and the film went on, the film went on from there. So they kind of like, they, you know, broadcast to, you know, the world that they'd gone up. So at the very last minute, of course, all of the guys that were like three or four of them, one of them being OJ Simpson, make of that what you will, because that in itself. So they all got flown, you know, up and then literally dumped in the middle of some desert somewhere. But then, of course, you know, they were broadcasting back to Earth that, you know, this is where they were and what they were doing. And eventually, I think one of the guys managed to send a message to his wife by kind of like talking in code somehow. But yeah, but they didn't know until the very last minute that they weren't going to go anywhere. So it's interesting, you know, and eventually they kind of managed to like claw themselves back to it. If you can find that one, that's like one of the earliest of like, did we go? Did we go? Capricorn One, I think it's called. But yeah, I saw the trailer to Fly Me to the Moon. I'm like, I don't need to watch this, because you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I see what this is about. Yeah.
So what I did like about that movie, like it is just a cute movie where they double down that they went to the moon. But what I did love about it is that they talked about how they had to start marketing space to to American citizens.
Mm,
So it wasn't in the normal psyche of space. Like they could look up at the stars, but nobody was thinking about space in their daily life. And they found a woman that could sell anything. Like she sold cars. She was actually like running away from the authorities at some point. She was a little shady, but she could sell anything to anyone. And so the American government used her to sell space to the world and to the American people when they were doing all these rocket launches. And so you see how they start putting space on like your kid's favorite cereal, or
mm,
how they start marketing space during like sporting events and on television commercials, and getting it like she even says like we need people to wake up and think about space and just get it into their minds, into their unconscious mind, so that they don't even realize they need it. And
mm,
so it really or really shows like how they started to use marketing and branding into the American population.
mm,
And so I think about that now when I see my clients and when they have such a hard time like making a different choice. just thinking about years of programming and conditioning because like there are things that I'm still battling with, like especially food. Like I didn't realize how my food addictions were so heavily tied into my drug addiction because I was just replacing one addiction with the other.
Mm.
And that has been hard and challenging, and I'm still working on it. And that was probably, like 30 years of programming, but we're talking about people that have had 60 years, 70 years. And so to be able to just point them in the right direction and just knowing that like they don't have to do it all at once. Like
Mm.
these are things that take time and just opening yourself up to the possibility that your life can be different. Because when you've had like that narrow point of view your entire life, like they never even knew life could be different. And so this is really shocking to them. And then as far as television goes, I think the other like shocking thing is we all grow up watching things like 60 Minutes and the news. And so when I stopped watching TV, and I started healing my nervous system, especially like you realize how numb you were to everything.
Mm.
So when you're not numb to everything anymore, now if I spend a lot of time with like my boyfriend's parents who love 60 Minutes and court cases, it triggers me. Like it feels like that's happening to me. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, those generations are watching those TV shows all day long. And it is so eye-opening to the things that they've had to go through.
Mm. Yeah, it's definitely that. And talking about if you ever look at the way that cigarettes were introduced, I'm not sure if you've looked back, how you can create the idea of the fact that it was seen almost as something healthy to incorporate, whereas now we're at the opposite end of that. And even alcohol was always sold as like something that's elegant and something, that's going to help you and make you sophisticated. And when you really go down to the core of it on a spiritual level, it's opening you up to things that you don't want to incorporate within your body or within your space, within your energetic space as well. That one is going to be, I think, one of the hardest ones for most people to let go because of the social aspect that has been underlined to why it's so good to be a drinker and to have alcohol. And especially in the UK culture, it's part of the culture. Like if you say that you don't drink, it's like, are you some kind of weirdo? What's wrong with you? Is that you almost have to like defend your choice to not take on this poison. It's a very, I mean, it's clever. And I think that's one of the things that's so interesting when you look back and see the angles that all of this program has come from. It never just comes from one thing. It's in one thing, but it's like, very subtly kind of put in the background of so many other things that you don't even recognize that your mind is being caged. And I think that's why some people can't just let go of something from one angle, because then, well, what about this or what about that? And your favorite person, soap star, TV star, music star, whoever that you hold upon a pedestal is there to remind you of why this thing is good. You see how as evil and nefarious as it is, how multi-layered and almost genius as it is, and then you take a step back and it's like for somebody or for somebodies to have gone to this level of effort to encase us on so many levels, is like, what are they holding back? Because then it's like it takes like, well, they say military grade propaganda to keep the human mind enslaved and us unaware of the brilliance that we have. And as soon as we pull out, it's one, taking into account that we've been fooled, and sometimes that comes from a place of humility where you're like, oh my God, they played me for the vast majority of my life. And then when you can reconcile with that, and forgive yourself for just not realizing, then you can start to open up and heal and see the game for what it is, and take notes, because hopefully in the future we'll be able to talk about this of like, There'll be children going like, you believed it because it was on telly, that's what I always want to see, the conversations that I want to have in the future, where the youth will be incredulous that we dare believed anything that was just told to us without actually checking in with ourselves. I mean, that's my future desire. Where's your work taking you? What are you working towards now for your future and your work?
Yeah, so as you were talking, I I was sitting on a park bench the other day with my boyfriend, and he's not very spiritual. He's actually more Christian, and it's been a very interesting dynamic. But we've
Imagine.
definitely been able to like hold the space of unconditional love. But the one thing I told him the other day, like as we were just sitting in the middle of nature, I was just like, you know what? It surprises me every single day just how powerful the human being is.
Mm.
It is so surprising to me every single day how strong our spiritual abilities, how much strength a person actually has inside of them. I can't believe like how much love I can hold within my body now just by releasing all those emotions that weren't serving me. Just at the states of consciousness, like just the states of love that I've reached every single day. I'm surprised because I see it more and more. And like me and my boyfriend were just like looking out at the people around us, and I was just like, all of these people have no idea how strong they are. They have no idea how powerful they are. They have no idea how spiritually gifted they are. So I'm at a point in my work where I'm just more excited than ever because more people are coming to me. More people are just starting to be open about their spiritual abilities. They are just trying to find the power within themselves. So I'm always going to give people the tools that I used to change my life that took me, that really took like that quantum shift in my life that I needed. And now life is more magical than I ever could have imagined. And I'm just so excited for more people to start to realize that and to start have these experiences.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sierra. It's a beautiful conversation, and I'm with you on that as well. I want that to be the case and the future that we can witness. Um, Please let everybody know where they can find you, and if you've got something coming up, let us know also.
Yeah, so you can always find me on my website. It's awakenedheartbqh.com. I have a membership as well where I do group hypnosis, live coaching. That is patreon.com/quantum awakening portal. I do a lot of live events on there. So go check that out for the newest event, just depending when this is released. And then I also have a YouTube channel, which is at Brooklyn Quantum Healing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was a beautiful conversation today.
Thank you, Sierra, for sharing your story with me, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, I encourage you to leave a review and tell me what you enjoy about my guests on Her Conversations. Also, if you enjoy the episode and the wisdom of my guest, please feel free to share with other people that you feel would also benefit. You can find out more about me on my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, CarolMaywhittick.com. Find me on LinkedIn and Facebook under Carol May Whittick, and Casmic, CAZMICK, on Instagram. Until the next episode, take care. Bye-bye.